everybody. Welcome to the Our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Aaron Lehman, really excited to be interviewing a very special friend in my life today, Kamra Hakim. And yeah, just very, very excited for this connection and our time together. Those of you who are brand new to the podcast and or the YouTube channel, welcome. Really excited to have you join in. The vision of this podcast has been to I just have a lot of curiosity when it comes to what's going on in other people's lives. What are other people processing? What's going well in other people's lives? How are they healing their shit? I mean, for me, that I feel like I came back to this earth to work on and heal and evolve. And hopefully by the time I get to 99 and I'm saying adios, like making that transition, I have discovered greater peace than I'm experiencing right now, So so for me, I'm curious, how are other people accessing peace? How are other people accessing spirituality? How are other people shifting their childhood stuff, that no longer serves them? So a lot of curiosity about what's going on in the lives of others motivated this podcast. Also a fascination with body, mind, spirit healing. That's been ongoing probably since my teen years. Was already kind of like exploring like, ooh, chocolate. I think I'm going to give up chocolate. I read that it like helps with teen acne. And I was like, I'm going to give up chocolate. And it freaking helped me so much. And I was like, oh crap. Like what I'm putting in my body is impacting, my appearance or whatever. So just curious about what, curious about healing as a massage therapist, Reiki practitioner, and just like, intuitive being, emotional, energetic being. I'm just fascinated with healing. And so I want to know what other people are walking through and how other people are healing, because, I have this one very limited understanding of healing, and it's my journey, it's my path. But all of us have our own unique experiences and zones where we're healing that I think can bring so much insight to the rest of us when somebody's open to sharing what they're walking through, what's going good, what's going shitty, and just have some more vulnerable conversations. So here we are. Welcome. Those of you who are brand new, those of you who've been with us for a while, welcome back. And really excited for my interview today. Kamra and I go back to Glendale, Arizona. It was where we met. Kamra, walked into my classroom, and really you've changed my life big time over this last. What are we talking about? We're talking about 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
8 or 9. So we're talking 12-ish years of friendship. You started out as my student, but it really was I felt like you were a peer. You were just such a next level being in the classroom. So I just really leaned on you so much to just with your leadership, your just natural giftings in the classroom. You were such a great leader. You also, I remember doing like a speech thing one day in one of the in the classes, and I think everybody had maybe 20 minutes to write a speech, and I remember you got up and did this speech, and I was like oh my, I'm like, all right, Kamra, anyway, I don't remember the exact details, but I just remember thinking Kamra needs the microphone. Kamra needs the microphone. People need to hear Kamra speak. So Kamra today lives in New York City in the area, and Kamra dreams in public to support artists in transformation. Their mediums include permaculture, music composition, and experimental healing. And I am just excited to listen to you today and have the audience learn to know you. So Kamra, here you are, 12 years post. I met you when you were 15-ish. So you're 28? 28 years old. Tell us a little bit about your journey to right now. Have there been 2 or 3 moments game shifting moments, choices you've made, maybe back in the day, maybe more recent. If you'll just, invite us in and share a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
So when Aaron and I first met, I was a 15-year-old cisgender girl, and now I'm a 28-year-old transgender person. So a lot has changed. And one of the moments that I want to focus on is my post undergrad experience when I moved to China for a year to teach English. I did that because I majored in global studies and I was thinking about the ways in which I could apply my degree to a real world experience. So, and I got a job opportunity to be in New York at the time, but I chose China over New York. Little did I know that it all would culminate and lead me back here. So I decided to move to China after I got a Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies from Arizona State University. And China was many things. It was challenging. It was a place where I had to learn how to advocate for myself. It was a place where I got to experience my queer liberation. So much happened. I moved to China. I take the TEFL certification. I move into my accommodation and I was very unsatisfied with it. So I'm like calling my sponsor, being like, this is unacceptable. I need you to do something about this. So after like 5 weeks of advocating for myself, they finally got me a brand new apartment. They moved me to a different school that could actually meet my needs. And while I was there, I met another artist who was teaching at the same time, and we connected right away through music and having similar tastes in things. And she was the first person to invite me into queerness. She was like, can I kiss you? And we kissed, and that was a wrap. I was like, I'm queer. I'm definitely queer. And so we had our little romance going on like while I was teaching. And through this experience, I really had to sit with myself. I lived alone, didn't speak the language very well. And so I had to really be with myself, be with my demons. And while I was going through that process of being alone and working through that depression, I started to think about what's next. What's my next step? How am I going to grow from here? How am I going to take everything that I've learned and really push the envelope forward? So I was doing research online and I came across the Thomas R. Pickering Foreign Affairs Fellowship, which is a fellowship awarded by the State Department to streamline minority folks, Black folks, women into the Foreign Service. So I applied and committed to this application. It was like, I'm one of those people that like when I set my mind on something, like I'm getting it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied, did all my paperwork. It was lots and lots of paperwork. Did my interview with the State Department from China on Zoom before Zoom was a thing. And they accepted me. They loved my candidacy. 2 weeks after that, I was flying out to DC, meeting all of these diplomats, becoming official. And part of the program was going to grad school. So you would pick a graduate school program, do that for 2 years, and then you would transition into the Foreign Service and you would serve for at least 5 years and then decide where to go next. So I chose NYU, got in to their Master of Science in Global Affairs program. So after China, I had ended up in New York anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an incredible college experience. I learned a lot. I met incredible people. I wrote a 78-page thesis. I studied abroad in Panama, Costa Rica, Dubai. Like it was great. Halfway through my program, I get a call from the State Department being like, so you passed your security clearance, but you didn't pass the suitability review. And the suitability review is equivalent to like a polygraph. Like they have to test you out to make sure that you're suitable or qualified.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't pass that section because they found out that I did mushrooms on campus when I was an undergrad, and they said that that made me ineligible. So halfway, I'm like literally about to graduate, and then I get this phone call. So it's like all of this stuff is just breaking down and falling apart right before I'm about to graduate from this program.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was just so flabbergasted because I saw my life like fall apart before my eyes. They were like, yeah, you're no longer qualified to serve, and we're also taking your scholarship away, and we're making you pay it back. So not only did I have to pay for my graduate school program, but I have to pay the State Department back for the scholarship that they gave me. So I took out student loans to finish my degree because I was already halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have $58,000 on my Department of Treasury collections account because of the State Department. So I graduate with all of this student loan debt. I'm fucking furious. Sorry if I don't know if it's okay to cuss on the show.
Be you. Yeah.
And I just was at a loss. I didn't know what to do. And from there, I kind of just did small jobs. I worked at Pratt Institute, Columbia, just was trying to make ends meet in New York. It's very expensive to be here. Mm-hmm. And all the while that was going on, I started hanging out with a lot more artists. I started playing music, going to music festivals, experiencing the beauty of small gathering and working with creative folk. And I think it was the summer of 2018, I got invited to work at Bonnaroo, which is a music festival out in Tennessee, super massive, like all of the headlining artists play this festival. Mm-hmm. And I was working on activating one of the barns. So we like went into the barn and like activated it and set up a stage and decorations and all kinds of beautiful things. And in my process of doing that and hosting the space, I started to think about like the beauty of like coming into a space where there's like nothing and putting life into it. And that started to get my wheels turning around this concept of like activating, like, what does it mean to like turn on, to become alive, to just be like revving, you know? Mm-hmm. And when I got back to New York, I was so inspired. I was like, what if I created a space for my people? So I started like doing some research, asking friends, like, I want to do this thing. I want to have a space. Do you know of anything? And I was put onto this beautiful retreat center in upstate New York called the Outlier Inn. And the first Activation Residency was born, which is now my business. So Activation Residency is an artist residency owned and operated by a Black trans person in service of working class artists. And it's been in operation since 2018, and it was born out of a need for survival, a need to feel a sense of belonging. And there have been moments of activation where, you know, I'm just kind of like bopping around, doing my thing, making sure folks are okay. And like, I'll pop into a session with an artist and they'll be like, I feel like I belong. And then I just like burst into tears because that's the essence of the work that I'm trying to do, is like, I've been, you know, my scholarship's been taken away. I've been kicked out of this space and like thrown out of this thing. And like the experience of belonging is just so important to me. So to be able to have cultivated that within a 2-year span of building something is extraordinary. And the fact that like activation was born out of society's disapproval of me is just wow. Like I built something because I didn't fit somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge shifting moment, changing moment. It's a story I always go back to. People are always so bewildered when I share this situation with the State Department. A more recent transformation that I had happened after Activation 2019. I started dating a trans man, and it was my first trans partner. I learned so much. It broke me down, tore me apart, broke my heart. I was like in shambles. But I learned a lot about myself. It gave me the courage to come out as trans and embrace my full self. And like that journey alone, like once I like made that connection with the universe, being like, I'm transgender, everything else in my life just fell into place, actually. And the big shift that I had with this relationship was that at the end of it, when he broke up with me, he said, I felt pressured into a relationship with you. And that really struck me because I've never experienced myself as somebody who has the domination to like force somebody into anything that they didn't want. And so I was like very taken aback by that information. And I was like, wow, like I need to check myself. I need to figure this shit out. And so I, one day I was scrolling online one day and then I found a person doing consent and boundary classes. And I was like, oh my God, this is for me. Like, maybe this can help me figure out where I went wrong in the consent on that previous relationship, et cetera, et cetera. So I started to do research. I found this person on social media who was teaching consent and boundary work. And I was like, oh my God, this is for me. So I took some mushrooms, went for a walk in Prospect Park and was like taking this class, and holy shit, like it changed everything for me. Like I am a completely different person. Just learning about consent beyond the framework of sex, you know, and like consistently checking in with people. Like, are you available for this chat? Like, do you have the space to hold me? Like all of these things that I just wasn't taught came through this course. And it also gave me a little bit more insight on where I went wrong in that relationship. So it's like, I guess the big theme of my life is like seeing the ways in which trauma, challenge, breakdowns, sadness, depression, like all of these things that we sort of want to distance ourselves from, the ways in which it's actually cultivated abundance, love, joy, beauty, learning, understanding in my life. It's been like so much about transgender identity, and like my gender identity is wrapped up in the physical experience of transformation. And so, yeah, I'm really, really here for transformation. And I think that the universe, God, however you want to call source, is in such deep communication with me. And like, I can feel that through my life's experiences. And I think the hardest things that I've ever had to go through have ultimately blessed me with expansion and a better quality of life. So that's my intro.
Wow. So that, yeah, amazing download on, I mean, from experience in China, choosing to go there, versus going to New York. You roll to China, have a new experience where it sounds like you really had to say, hey, this is not okay. I remember having conversations with you. You're like, this is not hospitable. I can't even live in this place, you know, or whatever. So, you know, speaking up for yourself there, having an intimacy with a partner there.
Yeah.
And being first time having a queer experience, which was like, whoa, this man, this is, yeah. And so that expansion happened. You then get this scholarship, roll to NYU, in school, learning tons, connecting with really good people, right? You talked about Bonnaroo, this, and then like as you're in this program, you find out your scholarship is getting taken. Your relationships continue to expand and evolve, and the Bonnaroo experience kind of opens up. Oh my gosh, I need to create a space of belonging for people like me. People like me that don't fit in the norm, you know, the whatever you want to call it, just world norms or cultural American norms or whatever. You're like, I need to create a space. Oh my gosh. And it's, I mean, what's wild to me as you're sharing is, I mean, a lot of people would have take that elbow and just be like,
right. But I was like,
somehow,
you are not gonna bring a good bitch down. Like that was my whole thing. I was like, you're not gonna tear me down. Like,
yeah.
And that's another thing too that I've realized about like personal power is like the framework in which that power operates is less important than the power itself. Like if I were to go on to be a diplomat, like I would have been an amazing diplomat in the same way that I went on to run an artist residency and like cultivate my musicianship. It's like that I just took my power from one entity and like put it into another. And I mean, I've never been able to keep a job. I've been fired, I've been let go. It's just the sign is so clear. Like I am built to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's a privilege. Like not everybody has the capacity to do that. Not everybody has the connections and the resources. Not everybody is able-bodied enough to be able to like perform at that, you know, ratio that's expected for a small business owner. And like, even though I have my own struggles with like, you know, body stuff and chronic fatigue and pain and things like that, and I'm not always able-bodied, like the fact that I'm able to produce what I've been able to produce with the circumstances that I've been given is like absolute magic. And I'm like and I use the word magic intentionally because that's what it is. Like this experience of being alive, like on a sphere that's like spinning in both directions at the same time, like in space, like that's magic. So yeah.
Yeah, and as you're sharing that magic, I mean, so you just have it's almost like you intimately know of that magic, like you feel it at another rate, because I feel like so many people would just
Collapse.
too
Yeah.
much. It's too much. I can't keep pushing. I can't go through, you know. But somehow, like, do you feel like it's the magic awareness that pulls you onward, or like, were you raised with, hey, Kamra, go get your dreams, go, you know, where's that fire, you know, what's that fire? I'm sure there's many places that it's come from, but
I am a Leo rising.
uh-huh.
I've just always been bossy. Like I've always been like, yeah, just like my own person. And I think also too, like being young and Black and being like a high performer, like you knew me when I was a teenager. Like I was constantly performing. Like what other kid was president all 4 years of their high school experience and just like planning every single prom, on the dance team, on the national honor system? Like, come on, you know what I mean? It's like basketball, you know, it's just like, I think, yeah, I've just been a high performer all of my life. And I think that when, I also just think the legacy of Blackness, right? Like so much of our existence is like resilience, like having to be strong, having to push through, having to like fight against all of these corrupt systems. Sorry,
Feel that.
it's generational. Yeah, and I just like that's the spirit, you know, like that's the spirit. The fact that like I'm like standing on like generations of people who have literally had nothing, and like I owe it to them to show, like I owe it to my ancestors to show how hard they worked by doing well and being as well as I can. So yeah, that's the magic for me. It's like being Black, like coming from a lineage of people who have been enslaved, whose magic has been stolen from them. And yeah, I'm just like, I feel like I'm the generation that's like, fuck that. We're not doing that anymore. Like it's time to thrive. We're thriving, you know? So I think I just have built up a very strong capacity to want better for myself, to want to thrive, to not want to struggle. And even in that, there's almost like this, like, when I think about like marginalized identities and like struggle and overcoming like suffering and stuff like that, there's almost this like desire to suffer because it's what we're used to. And now that like I'm in a space where I'm experiencing less suffering, I'm experiencing discomfort in being well because it's not something I'm used to. And so even moving into my own space, which is I've had friends over there like this is the most gorgeous apartment I've been in New York City. And I've been crying every night since I moved in because I feel so alone and I'm still processing the fact that I've like quote unquote made it, you know? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's intense to hold that of
Yeah.
that. Whoosh.
I was not expecting to cry during this interview.
I mean, but yeah, this is why I love you, because you bring your heart and your soul. Your magic is like right there, right. It's right now. Yeah, it's powerful. Such a gift. Mm, yeah, I just want to breathe with what you just shared.
Like
For yeah,
giving up is not an option for me, you know, like
yeah.
giving up is not an option for a lot of marginalized people. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and the space you're creating consistently for people you love and for people who are marginalized who have not felt belonging. You know, you shared that as your, with the activation piece, as you hear somebody roll into the space and they're like, this is the most safe I've ever felt. You're like, ding, ding, ding. This is why I'm doing that. Like, this is why I've got to keep doing this.
absolutely. And I've also cultivated a sense of like trust and transparency where when someone isn't feeling safe, they're able to vocalize that. And that feels really important to me as well. Like,
Mhm.
not, there's so much emphasis on like the safety and the good things. Da, da, da. There's been like shit, there's been drama at activation, there's been shit that's gone down. Like,
Yeah.
I've lost friends because something happened at activation that they didn't fuck with, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
name that for like accountability's sake because, yeah, like when I do these interviews, like I get to spend a lot of time talking about like the light and the love and all the beautiful
Right.
things. And it's not often that you get to like just share that like shit isn't always perfect. Like, you know, worlds collide, people get upset. Like, you know, somebody told me last year that they felt like I was gatekeeping information. So it's like, you know, there's always like learning to happen, even within those group, like the intersections of marginalized identity. Like we
Mhm.
still have the things that we have to work through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's that growth edge stuff that like no matter what you're creating, no matter whatever anybody creates, I mean, there's gonna be like, oh shit, didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm,
Oh
mm-hmm.
shit, I got to keep growing in that. Oh yeah, didn't have that written well on my website. Okay, shift that. What like I mean, and just yeah, having the humility to be like, yeah, I hear you.
Or yeah, I made a mistake, you know.
I made a mistake.
Yeah. I feel like one of the biggest life lessons that I've learned in the past 2 years that I just want everyone to know this is
Mhm.
like harm is going to happen. We all cause harm. It's gonna happen. It's how we address the harm that matters. Like there's such a fear of like fucking up or making a mistake or it's like it's going to happen. We have to get that. We have to understand that. That's the only way I feel like the world is going to transform is if we can like accept the fact that even in our goodness, even in our vulnerability, even in our holiness of being earth workers and people who are making change, we are still going to cause harm.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've like struggled with in like spiritual movements and new age movements is like this refusal to acknowledge when harm happens or like this inability to cope. Like there's so many beautiful spiritual leaders out there who when you critique them they're like, oh no, that couldn't be me, I couldn't, you know. And it's like we all cause harm, that's just the nature of being alive. So I wanted to share that because I think a part of my healing journey has been acknowledging that, because I used to be someone who thought that I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago, I was like, I'm a good person. I don't hurt people. Da 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 da. Hurt people. Hurt people. Good people hurt people too. So let's clear
Let's
clear
clear
clear.
that up. Oh, oh my God. That's so good.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Holy, yes. Yeah, I mean that honestly, Sarah and Kamra are super connected. So I'll just, yeah. So Sarah, like that was our therapist this last 12 months has been 15 months has been like, y'all are human. Like you do the wrong thing sometimes. You say the wrong thing to each other sometimes. Like own it. Own it. Like stop acting like it's not, you're not doing that, Aaron. Like you're doing it. I mean, I remember our first few sessions, it was like, I felt like I was just getting called out on all sorts of shit. I'm like, okay, this is not comfortable, but
It's
yeah,
not
it's
comfortable.
thank you for calling me out on it. Right. We're all have been trained in some ways that are not functional and not honoring. To unlearn that shit is not easy.
No, it takes a lot. Like even last year at Activation, someone, this person who was confronting me about their issues, like I did not hold them well, because I was going through my own thing of being like, why can't people feel empowered? Why can't people feel like they have authority in the space? Why does it always have to be me that has to clock this and clock that?
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that like I was going through my own shit made it nearly impossible for me to show up for someone else. And like now I caused harm by not being able to like hold that person through what they were going through. And I think even being able to admit that out loud and be honest with myself is like that is a healing process. That is a healing practice. And this is all stuff I'm learning through CODA and SLA, which are community groups to help people cope with their codependency and addictions around relationships. And yeah, if there's one thing I want folks to take away from this episode, it's that like personal honesty it's life-saving. Like I am gonna have such healthier, more profound, more messy, beautifully messy relationships because of this cultivation of self-honesty. And yeah, it's just such important work. Like I could go on and on about it.
Yeah, if it the mat you Camera. I just appreciate you dropping us in on these different zones because it is such a awareness shift, right? This perfection seeking bullshit in the spiritual world where it's like, oh no, just floating around. It's like, no, not just floating around. Actually not grateful today. Actually like up in my head today and actually pretty pissed off. And like just yes.
Yeah.
So that really to me drops the shoulders. That acknowledgement, I think, of just owning up that harm, hurt people, hurt people, but also good people hurt people. Like that just could we drop our shoulders a little bit?
Right. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just feel like, so many folks are afraid, I just feel like fear. I just feel like it's been such an intense, we're just going through such an intense time. It just feels fear everywhere. Yeah. Tell me if you're open to it, sharing a bit about just this last, 12 months, the last 12 months. You still had a fantastic activation reality. Yeah. In the fall, it was game changing. Your business has been growing, but there's been some great blessings. You're continuing to manifest magic, you talked about some key work. Those two, SLA and CODA.
Yeah, SLA stands for Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, and CODA stands for Codependency Anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing so. It sounds like you continue to manifest magic, but it's been a year. It's been a year for so many. You know, if you could speak to, yeah, your experience of the last 12 months ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a year, like I can tell you where I was from last year's March up until now. Like it's one of those years that you just like will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that everything happened, it was just like universal. It was just the universe doing its design on us. Like I remember I was working for an art fair. We were at Spring Place in Soho. It's like a super fancy building, like the best of the best go there, the rich of the richest go there. And so I was at this building up until March 15th, which is when like our last install for the art fair was. And then literally that day they were like, we're closing everything down. Like everyone's getting laid off. Go home, don't leave your house. Like it was serious lockdown in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was living with two friends at the time. So we literally the same day, we all lost our jobs. We're on the unemployment line for like weeks.
Yeah.
Finally got through to unemployment. Thousands of dollars like flood in because, you know, they had to do all this back pay for like 8 weeks. So it's like $8,000 just flood in.
Yeah.
Finally have money to like move around and like do something. Meanwhile, like since I'm at home and I can't really do anything else, I'm working on the business. I'm working on myself. I'm buying like new instruments to like play music and just all this fun stuff. So it was definitely a year of like turning inward, doing a lot of self-introspection. Last year, Activation started a cooperative fund that now has 105 members, over $5,000, and we've funded like over 12 proposals, which means that 12 people in our group have received money directly from the cooperative. So yeah, shelling out thousands of like receiving thousands, shelling out thousands. Then George Floyd was murdered, and I think that changed the landscape for everybody. I was going to protest that weekend, and it was fucking exhausting. Like it was just like mentally, emotionally, like I was like, the fact that I'm in the streets screaming Black Lives Matter, like what is going on? Like it's 2020, like, and I'm out here screaming that my life matters when I could be in bed resting. So I was like, you know what? Like the revolution is many things. It doesn't have to just be us in the streets protesting, having terrible interactions with the police, et cetera, et cetera. It can also be rest. It can also be respite. It can also be us caring for one another. So I saw an opportunity because so many people were starting to fundraise. I was like, okay, so I'm going to launch this residency program right now because everyone wants to help Black people all of a sudden. So I posted on IG and I was like, I'm going to host a residency program for 50 frontliners who are fighting the front lines right now. And yeah, within 3 weeks, $50,000 came in and the project was funded. So got to pay for everybody's accommodation, pay for everyone's travel, food, it was a free residency program. No one paid anything. Everybody who worked got paid. And yeah, it was just so, it was seamless. Like no one got sick from COVID. We all tested prior, got negative tests prior. And yeah, it was just like, this is how magic can work in a time of like deep despair, when people are dying by the thousands, when hospital beds are too full that they literally can't care for people. People are waiting outside for days to see someone. And then I was just like, okay, so this short-term thing of like having people rest for one weekend is great, but like, what's the long-term goal? And so I launched Farming Food Charity, which has raised since last fall a little over $100,000. So now I'm like, I just get to play and dream because it's like the money is coming in, and now I get to think about, okay, where is this sanctuary going to be? Like, what is it going to look like? What's the design? Like, how can I incorporate permaculture so that like folks can, you know, step right outside their art studio and grab some apples off the tree and like just create a really like lush, beautiful, generous space. And so now I'm in a space where like the money is coming in, the vision is developing. I've set myself up to be able to be a visionary. And yeah, now I just feel like I get to sit back and dream and make decisions and keep learning and playing and planning. And one of the things that's been really loud for me lately is like, what would activation in Arizona look like? Like I'm just thinking about like my roots and where I came from and like the land that raised me and like how committed I feel to the desert and like how much beauty it's offered me in this lifetime. I would not be the person that I am today if I hadn't been raised in Arizona. And it's a beautiful place that I think is like vastly overlooked. Whereas New York is somewhere that people recognize, it's international, it's always going to be here. And so, you know, that experience of being bi-coastal is something that I would love. Now I'm like on a tangent, but yeah, it's like so much.
I love your tangent. I love your tangent. Keep going. So you're saying the Arizona piece could be, as you're visioning,
Right.
on New York, you would love. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so all of that planning happened in 2020. And then it's like on top of that, I like publicly came out as transgender, had top surgery in December. So my chest is a lot smaller than it used to be. Picked up my testosterone hormone treatment last week. So I'm going to start to take testosterone and my appearance is going to change a little bit. My voice might change. And yeah, I've been in therapy for almost 2 years now, which has been so transformative, so transformative. Yeah, it's been a very shitty, terrible year for so many people. And also it's been an incredible come up for a lot of people that I know, like a lot of artists. And this is what happens, like, when the world goes through crises, like people turn to artists. Like so many of my artist friends have made thousands of dollars. Their work is taking off. They're getting recognized. Jay-Z is hitting them up. They're on Spotify. They're doing, it's just abundance, abundance, abundance. And I love that, like, in time of desperation, people go to things that fill them up, that bring them joy, that elicit beauty. And so, now I'm in a moment where everyone's work is taking off. We're all collaborating. When I say everyone, I'm specifically talking about like my immediate Black trans artist community.
Yes.
And, folks are starting to get vaccinated. I had my first shot a week and a half ago and I'm having my second one in a week. So I'm still processing 2020 is all I can say. Like, it's been just so much movement, so much movement.
Yeah. Thanks for dropping us in on your last 13-ish months of just, what you've walked through. And wow. I think it sounds like it's creation. It was a year. It was the last 13 months has been creation, envisioning, and fundraising, and making this vision a reality because it needs to happen. Like you felt so. This has got to happen. Like that energy, and inviting other people to see that vision with you, and co-creating alongside, and the farming futurity. I've never said that. Yeah. It's, so that the vision would be to have like a property, permaculture, and like a space where you would host the activation residencies, where like different people would come in for stints, or what's that?
Yeah, I can actually show you a visual of.
Oh yeah.
Do you mind if I share my screen?
That'd be great. Let me make you able to do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is cool. I didn't even think we'd like get to do this, but here we are.
Oh, I'm so grateful. So grateful.
Let's give it a second to load. Okay, so Farming Futurity is privately owned by Activation Residency LLC, which is the business. It's been running since 2018, but I incorporated last year. Mm-hmm. I envision it as a forest garden artist residency designed to highlight natural, luxury, and ecological systems and processes. Mm-hmm. I'm dreaming of a placemaking project about a safer, food sovereign, creative, and soft-edged future. So the specs are, I'm thinking of 5 acres of art studio space, places for artists to install their work, prefabricated modular cabins sprinkled about the property, outdoor kitchen and bathroom, gravity-fed water systems, several gardens and natural springs throughout, biodigesters and compost pile for waste management, a shooting range, swimming pool, hot tub, sauna, and so much more. The space will operate as a seasonal artist residency, Airbnb, produce provider, and retreat and play space.
Yes. Yes, please. Oh my gosh.
So this is the actual map that I designed for my permaculture course to give folks a sense of like what the vision actually looks like on land. Mm-hmm. So if I zoom in a little bit, there we go. Mm-hmm. See at the top here next to the gray in the parking lot is a main house where I would reside. Mm-hmm. And then off to the left, we have a garden. Sorry, my computer is buffering. But there's a garden, greenhouses a little bit below here, and then a beehive off to the left of that, as well as a cod oven. It's really nice to be able to just like pop a pizza on the fire, like when you're hanging out outside. Further down left, we have the artist residency. So there's a woodworking station for woodworking artists, a painting studio for painting artists, a dance studio, 2 music recording studios because I'm a musician. We've got some outdoor sports, some tennis, an outdoor shower, a camping area. And then along here is a pre-existing stream. So the cabins that the artists would sleep in are situated around the stream just because water is so healing. And then over here, we have a ceremony house where we could do like meditations, grieving ceremonies, processing ceremonies. And then in the center of everything is the amphitheater. So this is where artists could showcase their work, do a live performance, give a talk, things like that. Further right in the spaces where we have our goats, our cattle, the shooting range, a lot more vegetation, agricultural crops, some seasonal crops, as well as a medical center. So that if folks are, they scratch their leg, they have a mental health crisis, they actually have somewhere to go. Mm-hmm. That's not off campus. So this is just like a dreaming visual, a vision visual of how I want the space to be. I want it all.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad you shared that and showed that visual. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, you'll have to check out the YouTube video to see this visual. Yes. Camera. Yes, the magic that you're manifesting and creating and calling forth. So needed.
So needed. So needed.
So needed. And I think there's, it's you saw a need and you're finding a way.
Right, because it's a need that like deeply, I need that.
Yeah.
I need to be able to go outside, hit the sauna, then go over to the tennis court to play with a friend, then head to the recording studio before going over to the campfire to make a snack. Like I need that experience. I feel so full when I have access to all of the things that I need to just dream and create and be and not have to like this whole like societal grind situation, 9 to 5, that's not my lane. That's not my lane. And I know that about myself and I'm happy that I found that out early on in life. So I didn't continue. I don't look at jobs. Like I don't have a resume anymore. Like I'm doing life. Like that's my job, you know?
Yeah. Totally. Do you do any like individual coaching with people? I feel like I saw. Yeah.
So I just started a coaching business last year and I have been working with my first client, which has been really exciting because I have so much information in my head, and to be able to articulate that and share that with other people who want to do similar work is great, because then they have a reference point. They're able to consult and talk to somebody who has already gone through the works. And so I have Activation Residency, and then I have Futurity Artist, which is like my personal artist brand. And through that brand, I offer a coaching experience called Mentor Magic, where I meet with folks on Zoom. I hear about their visions. I give them my feedback. I cheer them on, and just share my love and light. And I get paid for that.
Yeah.
So a 60-minute with me is $111. And right now, the one client that I have is interested in doing something more long-term. So I'm in the process of building 6-week, 8-week, and 3-month experiences. And those will be like priced accordingly. So folks can find out more about that on futurityartist.com.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So the entrepreneurial life.
Yeah.
I mean, you're all about it. You're like,
All
no, thanks to the 9 to 5. And there are a lot of folks that listen, I know, that are probably listening in that are like, yeah, I got to find something else. This is just not happening. I don't want to do this for the next 37 years or whatever. Yeah. What might you just like, if there were 2 pieces that you might offer to somebody that's like got a dream inside of them, but just has been like, again, circumstantially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has 3 kids, a partner or whatever. And is like, okay, how do I make this shift into something new? Do you have any like a couple little ideas for them as they explore that dream inside, or that goal inside?
Well, the first thing that's coming up for me is the fact that like risk is a big part of it. I think that if I hadn't taken any of the risks that I took, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know that like when circumstances are the driving force of our experiences and our realities, it limits how much capacity we have to take risk. So for example, it's like if you have 3 mouths to feed and you know you're going to make a certain amount of dollars in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, I'm going to prioritize making those dollars to meet these immediate needs. And I am going to prioritize spending 8 hours on the computer doing research and doing my business plan.
Yeah.
So folks love consistency. Folks love knowing they're going to get a check every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Folks love, like not doing the labor of setting up the work. And like, what I want to encourage folks to do is like, in order to be an entrepreneur and enjoy being an entrepreneur and make money and like be successful in that, you have to be willing to open yourself up to receiving beyond the ways that you've been taught to receive. So it's like, if you've been taught to receive a paycheck every 2 weeks and that's your expectation, like that's what you're going to go for. But if you're open to like, oh, maybe I'll get 50K in January and then I'll get another 20K in March, like that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not expecting a check every 2 weeks, but I am expecting like a cash infusion, like, at some point. And so that requires me to like manage my money really well and pay myself from my business. I know a lot of folks like who are early in their dreaming phase and they're building an entrepreneurial phase, they like put all the money in the business and they don't pay themselves. And then, you have, your salary is a part of the operations expenses. And so, yeah, I just think that like that mental shift around like how to receive money, healing your money trauma, like that's something that I'm on a journey with, like still learning. And if we don't build our capacity to receive in ways that we have not been taught to receive, it's going to be challenging to overcome those initial steps. And this is like 3 years in the making. You know what I mean? Like I spent 2 years doing the residency, no money, no resources, no nothing, no recognition. In the trenches, doing the work, not receiving a penny for it. And then, like 3 years later, people are like, oh shit, this is something I need to care about, So it's, yeah, risk, time, and healing money trauma.
You're so good. I love, yeah, I love listening to you. Yeah, great pieces. Yeah, those are huge. Those are huge. And great reminders for myself as well. So thank you. Great reminders. Um, so how do you stay grounded? Okay. Like, cause entrepreneurial flow, I mean, you're gonna like when stress levels are high, what helps you ground out? What brings you back into your body, into your infinite self? Like that's yeah. What helps you in that on that front?
My support network. Like I always joke that my mom is my primary partner. And I say that because anytime I'm like experiencing stress or like something's going awry and I like need to be brought back down into my body, like I just give my mom a call. I'm like, Mom, this happened. Like I need somebody to be accountable to. Like, can we process, And like she's always been there for me.
Hmm.
I think dropping into the knowing that dropping into the experience of impermanence has been really helpful in terms of like knowing that everything will begin and end at some point. Even things that have long cycles, like I've been experiencing chronic pain for the last 12 months. At some point that pain will shift or end or change. And I think that knowing around impermanence combined with like an embodied practice of knowing that the only thing that is constant is change. I feel like that's like a quote that everybody has heard and seen and known, but like not many people actually like live it in an embodied way. Like we really struggle to let things go. Like I have so much stuff like in here right now because I just like hold on to everything as I'm like preaching to other people to let things go.
Right.
So I have my shit too. Like I'm not perfect. I fuck up. Like I was literally just crying last night in a coda meeting. So it's like, I think being gentle with yourself, reminding yourself that you're human, seeing your mistakes as learning opportunities rather than opportunities to berate yourself is really important. Because people are like, for example, like, oh, I messed up. I'm so shitty, da da da. And it's like, no, I messed up and now I know and I can do better next time.
Yeah.
Like yourself is not gonna like change what already has happened.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten in the habit of like not wanting to acknowledge when we've done something wrong and then acknowledging it to the point where we're causing harm to ourselves. And it's like, that's also not helpful.
Yeah.
Music. I'm a musician at heart. So playing music really helps me ground. Watching movies. It's very chill and relaxing. You get to take your mind off of it and sort of fall into someone else's story, just the really simple human things, like the things that like we sort of overlook or like don't pay much attention to. Going for a walk, buying myself some flowers just for the shits and giggles because flowers are beautiful. Like, yeah, taking a nap is a great reset. If you don't know, I learned in permaculture, when in doubt, do nothing. If you are spiraling, something just hit the fan, your partner's calling you upset, when in doubt, do nothing. Like let it sit, pause. Pausing is an option. It's not just like start and stop. It's like the pause button is an option. So yeah, just, before you send that angry text, just pause real quick.
Oh, seriously. Yes. Oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you taking time today to bless me and to bless this Our Healing Voices community. Yeah, with your voice, with your with the work you're sharing and the work you're doing and the things you're creating, and so many beautiful little just wisdom nuggets that I'm so stoked to like listen back through because it's just one after the other, so much good stuff flowing. tell
Okay.
me, yeah, anyway, just so thankful. I would love to, because I want to honor your time. I would love to close with one more question if you're down.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, all right. So first off, this is on its way. This is coming. This is on its way. But so a room full of 20,000,
Oh,
and
Lord.
they've come and they're like, Camera's going to be on the mic tonight, and I am excited. Um, if you were to offer an experience, like if you were to offer, I typically say if you were to offer a couple pieces, two to three pieces of wisdom for people to walk away with, to chew on, and you've already dropped so much goodness throughout, so you may re-say something, but they're on the edge of their seat, 20,000. They're like, all right, what's Camera going to leave us with? What's Camera going to drop into our beings so that we can walk away and shift, or we're going to shift while we're listening? Anyway, yeah, you could go anywhere with that.
I would ask everyone to stand up and get into small groups, like small circles.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask them to share this with each other. Like I would ask them to ask each person in your group, what are their nuggets?
Mm.
And the reason why I would do that is because I'm a part of and interested in a culture where we're all experts, where we all have access to like our inner wisdom, where we feel like we can trust our bodies enough, because everything we have is already within us. It just needs to be activated. So I would just ask them, like, what are your nuggets, and like, can you share them with each other so you can experience an activation through your body? Like, I'm not the only one that has access to activation. Like, we all have that. And so I would just want to leave them with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like you. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. What's okay, so if people want to connect with you, futurityartist.com,
Mhm.
great place. Activation Residency IG on Instagram would be a good
Well,
place. No.
I don't run that account anymore.
Okay.
So like I won't respond.
Yeah, that wouldn't be through you. Yep.
Yeah. But if they, yeah, just futurityartist.com is like the perfect, because my email is on there. People can like drop me a line via email, inquire about my coaching services.
Yep.
There's also like some alternative healing opportunities on there as well. So like New York locals could
Okay.
get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, Camera, yeah, thanks again for being here and taking time today. And yeah, those of you who are this was your first episode of Our Healing Voices, thanks for being here. Again, yeah, Cam, as you just shared, may we all continue to listen to ourselves and to trust that guide, right? Where it's like, oh, if something stood out to you today, we're like, okay, definitely need to explore that. When you even like the love, said the love addiction, sex,
Yeah.
love addiction or whatever, or, like whatever might've jumped out at you today, trust what your soul feels called to research and look into more and dive into, because we're so unique. And yet we can also grab and learn from one another as to be like, ooh, I had never thought about like reading up on that or looking into that. So may we all continue to have courage to like listen to that guide inside that really is like saying, yeah, keep going that way. That way is going to lead you to more magic. That way is going to lead you to greater healing. That way is going to lead you to more abundance and more fulfillment. It's like, so continue to trust that, right? And yeah, and just continue to be yourselves. So thanks for being here. And yeah, this concludes episode 25 with Kamra Hakim, and I'm so grateful to y'all for joining, and Kamra for sharing your voice today. So thankful.
Thanks for having me.